Okay, guys, today we are going to talk about the editing process. This is kind of one of the negative aspects of formatting. And one of the reasons why a lot of authors prefer to do the formatting themselves. So, as formatters, we need to have a good editing process in place so clients can make changes down the road, whether it's a few days after you send the full draft or 5 years from now they have some updates they want to do to the book and they want to re-release it. So um, this can be a pain. And I'm sure many of us could have a powwow session and share some horror stories about the number of edits. um, I will guarantee you I could win that multiple times, only because I've been doing this for so long and I have absolutely seen everything. I've had to basically reformat books before, probably about 10 times, because the author just continues to have updates. And instead of, sending edits to me, they just update the Word document. And then in those situations, I charge for a reformat. So that's what you have to think about. What are the best options? So if a person has, a certain number of edits, let's say under 100, I am all good with sending them like an edit request form. And it's a pain for them to complete, but that makes them think twice about the edits. They basically will tell you the page number, the line number. If it's a formatting mistake, I correct that for free. If it's a text edit, they found a mistake, a grammar mistake, or they just don't like the way they worded something. Um, I want to know what it is now in the document and then what it needs to be changed to. And I do charge for edits. And honestly, if you offer a free number of edits, you're really shooting yourself in the foot there. I highly recommend not doing that. You can offer 3 rounds of edits. What I typically do with my level 1 formatting jobs, they get 20 edits. After that, it's $1 per edit. And for my custom jobs, it is 30 edits. And then after that, it's $1 per edit. If I have already done both the print book and the ebook, the cost goes up to $2, because then I have to make the edits in 2 different documents. And most of the time, I have to manually make the edits in the HTML of the EPUB, so that becomes a bit more cumbersome. So definitely charge for it. Don't ever offer free edits. It's just not worth it. I will tell you, I worked on one job for a client for about 6 years, same book. Every year he came back with updates that he wanted to make. And we finally put our foot down and said, look, we're not doing this anymore. Here's the file. You can do it yourself, or you can hire somebody else to do it, but we are done with this job. Um, that was when I worked with the publisher and service provider. Um, Recently, I had a client who had brought a document to me, and she had gone through alpha readers. It was a novel, just a novel, nothing fancy. Um, she had gone through alpha readers, and it had been line edited and edited. It just needed to be proofread, and she was going to have some beta readers so she could get some, she wanted an ARC so she could get some reviews. Well, after I provided the first full draft, she sent me probably about 500 edits. So I was like, okay, yeah, 500 edits, that's a lot. But I did them, and then prepared everything, sent her the files, and she was like, okay, it's on to my ARC readers now. I'm going to send it out, and we're good. I might have a handful of changes after that. She had over 2,000 edits, 2180, and it was a nightmare. And I couldn't do it in the time frame that she needed it by. And I gave her I gave her an out. She took it. And I was happy to be washed that job, even though it is very painful for me. I had never had to do that before because customer service is a big focus of mine because of my background. So, I want clients to be happy. However, there are certain situations that just are not feasible. I can turn around 100 edits an hour. So you're talking 21 edits, that's 20 hours. I did not have 20 hours available to work on her job. I couldn't drop all the other jobs that I had at that week to work on her job when she needed it because of the sheer volume of edits. So, in doing this, it's very important to have communication about the editing process. And if they are going to have extensive edits, and to them, they may not know what extensive edits means, but I always say if you have more than 100 edits, let's think about other ways to do this. And in that case, you can export your document. What I like to do in some cases, I will go to the main text frame of the document and I will export it as an RTF file, and I will send them the RTF file. So let's take a look at the RTF file. Now, if you do this, make sure you charge them because it's basically a reformat because they're going to send you the marked up document. Now, there are some things that do not come through, like the seam breaks, they do not come through. The drop caps do not come through the same way in Word. So there are certain things before you export, you may want to uh, not have the drop cap set up. All right, because if an author sees it like this, they're going to think, oh, that's all wrong. So there's certain things that you need to do before you export that document. Now, it's only going to export that main text frame. So this doesn't have the front matter. So if I wanted to export the front matter, I would need to go to the front matter of the threaded text frames for the front matter, export it there, and then for the back matter, if it's separate from the main text frame, I would need to export that as well. And then you can merge them into one document. But they can go in, you can tell them, hey, uh, depending on the number of edits, I always tell them to use track changes and send me the track changes back. Because if they don't have as many edits as they thought they did, I may decide just to manually do the edits instead of re-importing the document and reflowing everything. So that is one option. However, what we're going to mainly talk about today is this add-on that you can get. This program, the company is called M Software, and I've been eyeing this for a couple of years now. I've really, really wanted it, but we just, the price, we just didn't warrant it. Maybe it's not worthwhile. And then I decided to break down and do it because I think it would be a good product to have. So basically, I did not get the Words Flow option. I got the Docs Flow. All right, the Docs Flow Pro. What you can do is that once you have your document, the draft done, and let's say the author, what happens is when I send a full interior draft, the first full draft to a client, I let them know. I send them an edit request form and say if you only have a handful of edits, complete the form and send it back to me and I'll make the edits for you. If you have more than 25 edits, I can send you a line numbered version that will help you complete this edit request form. And I'll show you how to do a line number version in just a minute. And then I say, if you have more than 100 edits, let me know and we can talk about alternatives to providing the edits. All right. So when they want an alternative, that's when I use the Google Docs flow. So if I send them the editing form, I like to provide a line number draft. And so what I do is I create another PDF of their first full draft. And actually in the template, which I'm about to update, I'm gonna push out a new update for it. The template has it, it's just not set up properly. But what I do is I do a line numbered version like this. So I'm in the master pages for the chapter titles, and now I'm in the master pages for the main header pages. So I'm just adding these numbers here. So I'll create a new PDF and send them this PDF. And so it has the line numbers. So in completing their edit request form, they have the page. They'll be able to see the line number in the PDF. Um, Check if formatting correction, because I don't charge for formatting, and then they can paste what it says now, and then tell me what it needs to be changed to. So that's one way to do it. But this Docs Flow is a great program. I'm going to turn off my layers again. Great little add-on. It's costly, so you have to warrant, is this going to give me a good return? Because, if you're like me and you do charge for your edits, um, that could be a money that helps, your bottom line. So you may rely on charging edits. Me personally, if I could get away from doing edits for a client, I would in a heartbeat. So to me, having this option is a good way to do. So what happens is, let's say the client comes back and say, oh, I have like hundreds of changes, I'm just going to send you a new document. Like, no, 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 style's already set up, a new document's not going to work. Let me send you a link to a Google Docs file, and you can make the edits in the Google Docs file. So here we go. What you do is, when you get this add-on, it says Docs Flow, and it gives you the option to export to Google Docs. So you have to sign in to your Google Docs. It'll, if I wasn't signed in, it would say sign in. So this is my Google account. So export to Google Docs and visit. So it's going to give you um, that link. And these are my folders that I have available in my Google Docs for this particular account. So just ignore that. So I'm going to export, and then it should pull it up. Now, if I didn't mention it, just make sure you don't ever give edits away. Offer a certain number in your packages. But if you give them away, you're only shooting yourself in the foot, because you could be editing the same document for years. Trust someone who knows that. But luckily, I've always given only a limited number of edits. I don't care who the client is, you just don't want it to be stuck forever updating their document. All right, so here is the Google Docs. All right, so what you can do, what I prefer to do, is turn I set the document settings to suggesting. All right, so that way they can't go in and just make edits. If they have an edit, it will do basically it will keep track of their changes. So, all right, we're just going to add a lot of text. We're going to really mess this up, make it blend into multiple pages. And the reason why I set it to suggesting, if you ever worked in Google Docs, it can be kind of funny if you don't know how it does spaces in the editing process, and you really want to see what their changes are to make sure it doesn't introduce any new formatting errors. Okay, so that's why I do suggesting. I also know truly how many edits they have, and how much reflow work I'm going to have to do to the document, uh, and when I import these changes. All right. So what you do is change that to edit as suggesting. If you've never worked in Google Docs before, you can share it. What I typically do, I won't add their name. I typically just send them a link to it. So you click on that. Anyone with the link can be a viewer. They won't make any suggestions at all. They can be a commenter or an editor. So I always set it to be commenter so I can go in and accept the changes to make sure they used a space, a period. Um, they have the right amount of spacing. There's no double spaces, et cetera, et cetera. I The client that I worked with that had over 2,000 edits several months ago, I had set this up, but unfortunately, she had so many edits that it actually broke the Google Doc. Google Doc does have its limits with doing the track changes, and unfortunately, just know that there are limits. So if they have 500 edits, you may just want to change it to editing instead of commenting so it doesn't keep track of all of those edits um, in the track changes feature of Google Docs. So lesson learned for me is that a Google Docs is possible of breaking. So just be aware of that. Now, hold on just a second. All right, so now I typically will only set them as a commenter, but you can actually have them editing. You just won't be able to see where they made changes unless you did like a compare. And then I'll copy the link and I'll send it to them and I'll say, hey, this is your Google Docs. This is your, basically your text as a Google Docs. Certain formatting does not come through, so just be aware of that. Because sometimes, depending on the fonts, the italics will not come through. So just know that can be an issue. But in this one, it looks good. It's just not the same fonts. And so they can go in and make changes. And like next para, styles that start on the next page, it doesn't set properly. So this may freak a client out and they may add in all of these paragraph marks just to get page 2 on this. And now you're going to have a whole bunch of paragraph marks in your InDesign document. So that's another reason why to set it up as suggesting. So send them the link and then say, hey, make your edits in this document. And then once you're done, send me an email and let me know, and I will update the document. All right, so in that case, the client has sent me, hold on, let's name this test. All right, so we're just going to close this. And in theory, let's say it's a new day. And the client says, hey, Stephanie, I went through, my Google Docs has all the changes, we're good to go. So you would go to the Google Docs file. Let me change my account. And you would see it right here, and you would look through their changes, and you would accept them. Just make sure they're formatted, because these spaces are going to come through. And that's why I always look through the changes to correct those issues. All right, but we're just going to import it in as is. All right, so now we go to InDesign and we open that document. It is linked to the Google Docs. So it may come in and say, issue with links. This document contains links to sources that have been missing or modified. We know it's been modified, so we're going to update the links. And the good thing about this with the Docs flow, it keeps all the formatting in your InDesign document in place. So styles and everything are still set to the way they had them before. So whereas when you export from the RTF or they send you a new Word document, The styles may not necessarily stay intact. Well, if they send you a new Word document, then there's no styles at all, if they didn't use styles. So let me give a second. All right, so in our links panel, you'll see there's the link to the Google Drive. All right, so you'll be able to see when it needs to be updated. And let's come in and look. Here is all the googly gunk we added. Okay, and then I added a whole bunch of spaces here. Luckily, it doesn't look like they came in, so that's good. And did it not? Yeah, it didn't bring in those spaces here either, so it paid attention to my formatting, so that's good to know. But as you see, you'll see this DF for docs flow with a plus sign that now tells us this is all a linked document. And then you can go in and make changes and it will backload to the Google Docs file. So the client will always have kind of the final edited version of the formatted document, which is a nice feature. Now, however, you know these changes, if we already went through the process of balancing pages, these new changes throws that off. So you need to make sure you go back and go through those pages, and you will have to the reset them to balance. Let's see, let's just quickly balance this page. We're going to add that, make that balance. And then look, oh boy, all my master pages are off now because they added so much. Now, if you think you're going to have to reflow the entire document, hold up. If you think about it, it probably added 2 additional pages. So why not try inserting 2 pages right after this, and maybe the rest of the document will flow. All right. So what you can do is click on this page 10. You know, we know this is our chapter title B, which needs to be here. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert one page with the A header. I'm going to click on OK. After page 10. All right, so give it a minute. Then what we need to do is flow the text onto this page. So I come down to the bottom, clicked on the little arrow to reflow it. And then now where does that get me? All right, I still need another page because chapter titles for this book start on a right-hand page. So now I need to add a blank page to page 12 to get this chapter title page pushed to this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in again, page 11, insert page, but this time we're going to insert our blank page. And bingo. Now the rest of the chapters all line up and I do not have to reset the entire book. All right, so that's a quick little tip on, you know, when you have changes that cause all the pages to shift, there are easier methods than having to reformat all the pages. Think about how many pages you added or how many pages were taken away with that edit. And that's all you have to do. Add that same number of pages or take away that same number of pages. All right. So the Google Docs flow from N Software is definitely a great tool to have. You just need to warrant, is the expense worth it? It is pricey, it's $300, but if you find yourself bogged down in edits, it's definitely a great process to do. Because if they had 100 edits, I would have to go through 100 edits. But this way, you know, that would take me an hour, hour and 15, you know. This way, it may be something that I can do in 15 minutes to get them a new document. Now, when charging for these types of instances, we kind of lose the ability to track based on the number of edits. So even though I have this great tool, you still need to charge for the edits. But instead of charging By number of edits, maybe you say, I'm going to charge you based on the rounds. Okay, so consider this a round. So maybe with your level one formatting, you get maybe 2 rounds. With your level three custom format, you get 3 rounds. All right, so each time you have to import a new Google Docs file, update the Google Docs file in the InDesign document would be considered a round because you take that time to rebalance the pages and readjust the master pages uh, on the proper pages. So that's one way to handle it. And then charge like, I don't know, $5 per round, $10 per round, whatever you think. You got to think if it's going to take you about 15 minutes to reset a document after you import the changes from Google Docs, you think about your time. All right. So if it's only 15 minutes and you charge $50 an hour or $60 an hour, think about your expense for that time and have a minimum fee for those rounds. All right. So I hope that's helpful. Definitely check it out. It's from M Software. They have a words flow and a docs flow, so you could look at the version. It works the same way, but it would just have a Word document. The only problem I find with that is that if it's not on the cloud, if you're sending them the Word document and they're sending it back to you, there may be some issues. Whereas with Google Docs being online, it links directly to that online one. Um, that is, to me, the best option. And with indie authors, they're already familiar with Google Docs, and so it's comfortable. Now, you may be saying, well, isn't there a way to make edits in a PDF? Well, yeah, you can. And then you could manually go in and tweak the edits. But here lately, um, there is a feature that allows you to import a PDF into InDesign. All right. However, you're losing all your formatting. All right. So that really isn't the best option. But, and honestly, I have in the past tried to get clients to use, uh, update, edit their PDF using because it has the ability to do track changes in the PDF, editing it that way. And most people just are not computer literate enough to do that, based on my experience, I guess. Maybe I've I've had a lot of older clients who just don't understand computers, which is not definitely the norm in the indie world. So there are plenty of options out there. Think about what works for your setup. Now, if you do this as an author, you're at an advantage because you have your document. You can update it anytime you want. But if you are a formatter and provide this service for others, you definitely need to have a place and plan for these. And don't ever offer free edits. Offer, with this formatting package, you get in a certain amount, but after that, I do charge for edits. I see some people who say they have free services. You are killing yourself. Trust me. Trust me from someone who has had, who's worked on documents for years because the author just constantly changes things. And if you say you have free edits, that means they're coming back every time, and soon they're wasting so much of your time. So time is money in this world, so you need to think about that. Um, and think about what your prices are for edits. How long does it take you to actually complete it? And also too, if you do a lot of formatting, you need to have like a turnaround schedule for those edits. Because what if you're working on a big job and your client from a month ago is finally done editing their manuscript and they have like 500 changes you need to make for them, but you're bogged down by this other big job and you really don't have time to do 500 edits, because 500 edits in the normal method takes about 5 hours if you average about 100 an hour. So think about those things, because what I typically like to do is I like to leave one day a week open for miscellaneous things that may come in during the week, whether it's a print wrap, or edits and things of that nature, make sure you communicate to your clients. I do edits on Tuesday. If you need any edits, you know, let's say it's Friday and you say you need to update, well, you might have to pay for it. So just share your workflow with them to make sure that you are on the same page. All right, I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, shoot them to me. I love um, being a problem solver for people. So I want to know what your concerns are. All right. I hope everybody has a great week.